Hello everyone, my name is Robert Stacey. I'm a BIM consultant here for Man & Machine, and as part of this Future of BIM webinar series I'm going to be speaking about the Solibri Model Checker. Now, for anyone who might not be familiar with Solibri, what it is a quality assurance tool which allows us to check the quality of our models. So Solibri is capable of advanced rule-based clash detection. It's also capable of something called deficiency detection, which allows us to detect for when things are missing from our models entirely. It's also capable of verifying that our designs match, say, between our architectural models and our structural models. We can see, say, are the architectural columns in the same place as the structural columns, for example. Also allows us to track changes between model revisions, so we can see exactly what's changed between, say, revision 1 and revision 2. And it's also capable of instant data mining, so information takeoffs we can do in Solibri. We can also export straight to Kobe as well. So I suppose one of the first questions is, why is a QA tool like Solibri useful? Well, I suppose one of the biggest benefits is the time savings that it gives. It allows us to check our designs prior to delivering them, so we can correct any mistakes earlier, and hopefully that will mean we spend less time reworking our designs later down the line. It should also save us money, so it prevents costly changes later on, perhaps once we've already started the build process. And there should be no surprises when the build is in progress. I'm sure there's still going to be the odd surprise here and there, as there often is when we're building something, but there should be improved design confidence because we've effectively already built it once. We know exactly how this building comes together, and as a result of the improved design confidence, we should be able to produce more accurate tenders and more accurate quotations because the resources can be confidently calculated. So yeah, as the resources can be calculated accurately using the information takeoff tool, there should also be less waste, which is saving to the environment as well. Alright, so just an introduction to Solibri then. I suppose the first thing to mention is Solibri only uses the IFC file format, which stands for Industry Foundation Class. And basically it's a glorified text file. It's a file format without any ties to a particular software vendor, which makes it an excellent tool for collaboration. Now you'll notice that there's another file format on that list, .smc, and that's Solibri's own file format. So if I open up an IFC file, maybe run some checks and then save it, it'll save it as a .smc. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is just open up this SMC building file. So the first message that Solibri is going to greet us with is this one here. It's just going to ask me to select a discipline. So I'm going to select a discipline from this drop down, and I'm also going to give it a short name. So I'm just going to put the letter A in there for architectural and select OK. So Solibri starts us off in the model tab, and this is the model viewer. Up at the top right here I've got some modelling tools, and if you were to go to the Solibri website and download the free Solibri model viewer, this is essentially what you'll get for free. Now the first thing I want to demonstrate is just the speed of Solibri. So I'm going to come up to this finder window in the top right, and I'm going to put, if I type window in here and press enter, Solibri automatically finds all the windows. And if I type column in, it automatically finds all the columns. So it's really quick, but there's an intelligence there as well. Solibri knows that a window is a window, and it knows that a column is a column. I don't have to go in and tell it that. So just to reset the view, I'm going to hit this little brown cardboard box. Okay, and to navigate around our model, it's really intuitive. It uses all the controls that we're probably all used to now. We can use the middle mouse button here to pan. We can press shift and the middle mouse button, or just hold the left mouse button to orbit, and we can use the scroll wheel to scroll in and out. So I know this is only a very small model, but it's really quick, and it's just as quick with larger models, which I can demonstrate later. So if I just if I draw your attention to the bottom right hand corner, you'll notice that there's some floor plans there, and if I scroll into just the roof level and pan down the building, you'll notice that the floor plans update depending on what level I'm aligned to. Now I've not brought any 2D geometry into here. This is something that Solibri generates automatically, which I think is a nice feature. And you'll notice that there's a little yellow arrow or yellow marker which shows us our position relative to the building, and I find this quite useful, especially when we're working with larger model files when sometimes it's quite easy to lose your bearings. So now that I'm pretty much level with the main entrance, I'm going to switch to my walk tool, and I'm going to walk inside the building. Now you'll notice that Solibri is intelligent enough to know that I can't walk through walls. Okay, but it does allow me to walk through doors. It also allows me to walk upstairs as well. Now I always say that the first check that we do of a model should be a manual visual check, and the best tool to do that with is the walk tool. As a model coordinator on a number of projects, you won't believe the amount of issues that we've found simply by walking around a building. We can also use this little floor plan as well to help us navigate. I can double click on a room, okay, and it will take us to that location, which is quite helpful. Alright, and the final tool that we have in this drop down is the game tool, and what that does is it basically turns the controls into that of a PC game. So I can use a combination of the mouse and the arrow keys to navigate around the model, and personally I find this a lot easier to use than the walk tool. Perhaps that's down to all my experience of playing PC games, I don't know. Alright, so I'm just going to hit escape on here, and I'm just going to reset the view. So next to the navigation tools, we've got another drop down where the majority of our modelling tools reside. So the first one on the list is the info tool. We can use that to select elements, and we can display the non-graphical information associated with that element. So it says down here that this is in fact an ArchiCAD model, so all of the metadata that was inputted in ArchiCAD we can view in here, so such as the name, the type, material, the GUID associated with that element. Okay, so that's the info tool. Next one down is the select tool. I don't think we have to go into that one, but if I wanted to select an element I would use that. Okay, we've got a hide tool. We can use that, really straightforward, just select an element and it becomes instantly hidden. As you can see, it's really fast, and I can use this to help me interrogate the model in a bit more detail. Again, I'm just going to reset the model. Now the next one down is the markup tool. We can do markup directly onto the model. So we can see we've got an extra tool palette of markup tools here. So I can do things like revision clouds. I can draw arrows. Okay, I can put text in there as well. For example, check window. Alright, and there's also this component stamp as well, which allows me to stamp information about that component directly onto the model. So here I think it's currently set to display the name and the type of that element, but it can all be configured in the options. We can also do dimensioning straight onto the model as well, so we can snap to elements and strike a dimension between there. Okay, and as you can see, all of this markup and all the dimensions is aligned directly to the geometry. So if I wanted to save this viewpoint, I could come across to the Communication tab, create a new presentation, and it saves that viewpoint. So now if I was to come back to the model and hit the brown cardboard box, all that markup that I've just created has been saved. Now the next one down in the list is the sectioning tool. This is really straightforward. We can just select an element, and Solibri aligns a section plane directly to that element, so we can put one there, and put one underneath as well. So we can move all these section planes independently by holding Shift, like so, or we can hold down Shift and use the scroll wheel and scroll the section planes proportionately. And the final one on the list is the transparent tool. So similar to the hide tool, I can select an element and it instantly becomes transparent. Again, useful for helping us interrogate the model in different ways. Alright, so that pretty much sums it up for the model tab. Like I said before, you can go, I'd urge you all to download the free model viewer from the Solibri website if you haven't done already. Alright, so I'm going to come across to the checking tab now and check out the clash detection. So the first thing Solibri is going to ask me to do is to select a role. Role is basically is a collection of different rule sets which allows us to check for different things. As this is an architectural model, I'm going to select BIM validation architectural, click next. Now it's going to ask me which rule sets would I like to use. So we've got a number of default rule sets here, but we can add our own rule sets as well. There's around 60 to 70 rule sets built into Solibri, so it's unlikely that I'll have to create a new rule set from scratch. It's more likely that I'll just tweak the existing ones in there. Now you can do a lot with the rules which are out of the box rules, but I think the main benefit comes when you start spending a bit of time to create your own rule sets and implement your own checks. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to use these default rule sets here. Okay, and I'm just going to come up to where it says check, and I'm going to run a check. And we can see that really quickly Solibri has generated a set of results for us. So there we go, it's automatically categorized those results into issues of critical severity. We've got 25 moderate severity issues and 11 low severity. So at this point we can begin to dig down deeper into the results and investigate them a bit further. So to begin with, I'm going to come down into this BIM validation rule set here, and the first one I want to show you is this clearance in front of windows. So what Solibri has picked up here is it's found a number of soft clashes between these windows and the column components behind. Now this is where, in my opinion, Solibri sets itself apart from programs like Navisworks. In Navisworks there'd be a lot more manual input required. I'd have to go in and say I want to check, say, 500mm from every window. I don't have to do that in Solibri. It almost treats each element on its own merits. So what I'm going to do, I don't know for sure if this is an issue, but what I'm going to do is, it's my job to document it. So I'm going to right click on this result here and I'm going to add a new slide. So I can give this issue a title, I can also give it a description or set the default description. I can also add a comment as well. Are these columns an issue? Alright, it also gives you the location as well. In this instance it covers all 3 floors. I've also got the option to accept or reject, so accept that this isn't an issue, or reject because it is. And over in the coordination tab I've actually got the option to hold different disciplines or different stakeholders in the project responsible. So in this case I can make the architect responsible, and the big benefit of that is it means that I don't have to produce a set of checking results for each stakeholder. I can just produce one set of checking results and I can make different people responsible for those issues. Alright, so I'm just going to hit OK on that one. And the next one I want to show you is within this deficiency detection rule here. So it's one thing to detect, detect clashes, but it's another thing to detect when things are missing entirely from the model, and that's what this clever deficiency detection rule does. So if you've got, say, a bathroom without a toilet in it, it'll say, hold on, you've got a bathroom without a toilet, what's going on? So what I want to show you is this one here, components above columns. So what Solibri has found here is it's found that these columns don't touch the floor slab above. So yes, it gives a little description there. Column components don't touch above. Alright, and if I come down deeper it gives me another description as well in plain English. So the distance to the nearest floor slab is 450mm. So again, I don't know if this is an issue, but I assume it is, but it's my job to document it. So again, I'm going to create another slide for this one. Again, I can create a description and add comments for this one. I'm going to reject this one, and this time I'm going to hold the structural engineer responsible. Okay. Now, the final issue I want to show you is within component check. Yep, so wall dimension should be sensible. So what this rule has found, it's found a very small wall, which looks a bit unusual. So I'm going to investigate this, and what I'm going to do in this instance, I'm going to right click on here and I'm going to select section box. What it does is it puts a section box around the issue, and I'm going to drag this section box back, and I'm going to highlight the element once again. Okay, and we can see, oh, it's not actually a wall, it's actually a bulkhead. Okay, so maybe this isn't an issue. We could argue that, okay, maybe this should be categorized as a ceiling opposed to a wall, but in this instance I'm going to say this isn't an issue. So I'm going to create a slide for this one, and I'm going to accept that one to say it's not an issue. Click OK. And obviously you'd continue this process until you've addressed all the different issues. But once we've done that, we can come across into the communication tab and we can begin to communicate these different issues. Alright, so over in the communication tab, what I can do is I can create a new presentation based upon my checking results. Okay, and I could use this directly in a design review if I wanted to. I can go into presentation mode and talk through these issues one at a time, as long as there's not too many. And I can report these issues out as well in many different ways. So I can report this out as a BCF format. Now BCF stands for BIM collaboration format. And what's great about that is I can import BCF files directly into Revit. Okay, and what that will do is it will take me to all the different issues we've found in the report within Revit, which is great. We can also export to PDF, and we can export to Excel as well. So I'll just show you what both of those look like. So there we go. There's a PDF. Okay, and I'll just export to Excel as well, so you can see what that looks like. This one's my favourite. So it puts it in a nice table for you. They're quite small images, but these are all high definition images that we can enlarge and have a look at. And this table's kind of customizable as well. Where it says Solibri, you could replace that with your company name if you wanted to. I'm going to come across to the information takeoff tab now. So we can do takeoffs really quickly within Solibri, and there's two main takeoff definitions that we can use. So either the building element quantities, or we can do a takeoff of all the spaces within the model as well. Now we can get more specific with our takeoffs. We could do a takeoff of, say, all the building elements without a unit class value, for example. But I'm just going to go with the building element quantities just for now. Okay, and I'm going to select takeoff all, and instantly Solibri generates a takeoff for me. And just like before, I can export this out to Excel if I wanted to. So there we go, just a real straightforward Excel spreadsheet. Now as well as information takeoff, we can also export to Kobe. So I'll just cover that as well. So I'm going to select Unit Class 2 from this window and just hit Calculate. So down at the bottom here, I've currently got an unpopulated Kobe spreadsheet. As we all know, Kobe spreadsheets can be rather large, so it might take a couple of seconds to fill this out. Okay, and there we go. It's populated this spreadsheet for us. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to remove this model out of here. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to open up this version comparison here. So let's imagine we've gone away and we've implemented all those changes that we found issues for before, and we've come back with the revision 2. So within this file, I've got two models. I've got the previous model and I've got an updated version. But how do we know that all the changes have been implemented? I'm sure we've all had it where we've received a model from somebody and we've thought to ourselves, has this person actually implemented all the changes that I asked? Well, luckily we have something called a model version comparison rule set. So in here we can see exactly, Solibri tells us since the last revision, everything that's been added, everything that's been removed, and everything that's been modified. So again, I can come down deeper into these results, and here we have the columns from before, and we can see in purple we've got the old columns and we've got the new columns in blue. And if I come down deeper still, it says down here in layman's terms, the following modifications have been made, the geometry has changed, and the top elevation has changed from 2.6 meters to 3.05. So I think this is a very helpful tool within Solibri. So right about now you're probably thinking, Rob, you know, this is a fantastic presentation, but these models that you've shown us are only very small, which is true. So in anticipation of you thinking that, I do have some larger models which I'd like to show you now. So I'm just going to remove these models out of here. Okay, and I'm going to open up this office building. So we have a slightly larger model here, but as you can see it's just as quick to navigate round. And I'm just going to give you a few examples of some more intelligent checks that Solibri can pick up. So I'm going to come across to the checking tab, and we can see that the results have already been produced for me. And I'm going to come down to this egress analysis rule, and underneath here we have got the escape route analysis. So what Solibri has picked up here, we can see the travel distance to the nearest fire exit is far too long in a lot of these spaces. So I'm going to choose one of these spaces in particular on the ground floor. So this space here, we can see that unfortunately it's in feet, but the maximum travel distance is 98 feet according to this rule. But the travel distance for this space is 351 feet, so it's above regulation. So we can see the travel distance there. So this probably tells us that we need to have a fire exit maybe at this end of the corridor. Okay, and the next one I want to show you is underneath plumbing, toilets and bathrooms. So what this rule has picked up here is that there's not enough space in these toilets for a wheelchair to do a 360-degree turn and come back out, which is obviously an issue. So that's another example of an intelligent check that Solibri can pick up. It's very difficult to pick those kind of things up without a program like Solibri. And the final one I want to show you is under accessible routes, under ramps. What Solibri has found here is a ramp that's too steep. So according to this rule, the maximum slope is 12.5%, and this ramp is 17.7%. So again, a difficult thing to pick up just with your eye, and unfortunately it's in percentage opposed to a ratio. But again, you know, these rules can be tweaked to match your needs and to match the UK building regulations. Alright, so I'm just going to zoom out of here, zoom extents. So over in the communication tab, I've just got a couple more examples of the type of checks that we can pick up. So in this example here, the door swings are too close together. Here we've got the ramp from before. In this example, the riser height is far too high, and we've got the wheelchair turning space from before as well. So that pretty much concludes the demo. So to summarise then, Solibri is an intelligent quality assurance tool. It identifies issues that would be very difficult to identify without the software. So it does advanced clash detection, deficiency detection, version comparison, and also model aggregation. So I'm going to open up for questions very soon. The last thing I want to say is that Man & Machine, we're the only UK reseller of Solibri, so if you're interested in maybe purchasing the software or you just want some more information, then please do get in touch.